next month, it's going to be a year. Are we still going to sit around and say it's too early to judge this new administration? That's the question. Because I remember when this conversation came up, you, as the praise singer of the UPND.
I'm not the praise singer. I am not a praise singer.
Elias Monsha Jr. You said it was too early. So, do you still think it's too early? I've been wanting to ask you that question. Is it too early to start counting issues?
I don't think it's too early.
Oh, okay. So now we
too
can
early.
judge.
I mean, like too early for what? Counting issues. Which issues?
I mean, they've had, we can just say a year now to turn things around, at least for certain things to change. How's it looking for you with what you're seeing?
I fucks with what I'm saying.
What?
I'm alright right now.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, listen.
How about you forget about yourself for a second and throw everybody in there?
Who's
How's
everybody?
it looking for everybody?
Who's everybody?
Zambians.
Yeah, like what's the problem? What are the problems? Just like the problems are obviously there, but like I think we would have to be a little bit more specific in terms of what did they say maybe.
What can you point to that was promised and has been fulfilled and is working?
Not afraid to wear green.
Oh God. That's it?
Because UPND cadres might come after me. I'm not afraid to wear green. I can wear whatever color, you know what I mean?
Okay.
That's a big deal.
All right. But in the same breath, we should mention that cadres are collecting money from marketeers and bus drivers.
Okay.
So you haven't really dealt with cadreism. So we'll put cadreism to the side.
We kind of have though.
Not really.
Not just, it's like not completely, not to 0 point, right?
So
but to the
just
point
the freedom to wear your regalia, you're fine. That's enough for you.
No, not just that. But like it wasn't just the freedom to wear regalia, right? It's
the freedom to what? Wear regalia.
It's if you support the PF, right? Can you have a stand in a market?
I'm not sure. I haven't been on the ground to know that. But I would probably say you right now, if you're
still
were reports I remember where UPND cadres were chasing drivers out of markets or bus stops who were openly supporting the PF. There were reports of that, and they were calling into the radio station complaining. Like, there's so many of us. I know about that's one of the issues. I don't know
like
about
are we talking about this like just after
elections?
After the elections?
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
that was
so
like
UPND
that happened.
cadres were doing that, and actually even recently, like there were reports of that. So to a certain extent, that fight hasn't been won.
It hasn't been won.
So
I'm saying it hasn't been. It has been reduced.
That's what I'm saying. It's been reduced. It hasn't been.
No, it hasn't
handled.
been taken. It hasn't.
Whatever. So we can put that to the side.
Okay.
Cadreism hasn't been handled the way it was promised it would be handled. Because if you're going to say you're going to handle an issue, it has to be holistic. And the most important part is something that affects the everyday lives of people, which is money.
Yeah.
Because most marketeers live on a hand-to-mouth basis. Whatever you make that day is what you're going to eat. So if someone comes and says, give me money because I'm you're now land or whatever, like we're the guys who are in power now, then you're affecting people directly.
No, facts.
Wear your regalia, it's fine. I mean, around this area you can do that. I don't know if that's still possible in the actual places. I'm not sure. But from the outside the market looking in, it looks like you can.
It looks like you can.
So that aside, medicine in hospitals. This was a huge promise that the president made getting into office. And we know they have failed immensely there.
Yeah, that's still an issue.
It's been a bad story. It was rectified for like a few months, and then the story has sprung up again. There's no medicine in the hospital. I don't know why the Minister of Health still has her job. Fire her, please. Why are we babysitting someone? For what?
Like, and the thing is just like, maybe, and that's the thing, is like we need questions answered, right? Because it's almost like then what's the problem, right? Like, is the problem supply? Do you not have enough supplies? And if that's the question, then why don't you have enough suppliers? Like, don't we have enough money to buy medicines? You know, I feel like there should be what do you might call it, a report of sorts, right? Because we're just coming from a quote unquote a bad relationship, right? So we're a little bit traumatized. We got cheated on and shitted on, right? Left, right, and center. So if we ask certain things, we feel like we have the right to basically ask certain things. You know what I mean? I don't know. We might randomly call you at 01:30 just to see if you're home. You know what I mean? Like, we are a little bit traumatized. You have to bear with us a little bit. So you have to do the extra stuff to basically gain our trust again.
Right.
Because listen, politicians will politic. Sylvia Masewa has been in politics for the longest time. This is not the first regime she's been a part of. Yeah. You know what I mean? She's been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So you should know that, listen, as long as I might have been part of the old regimes and whatever, but like, this is a different team now. I have to up my game. I have to do things differently. If you have to give reports as to why there is no medicine, tell us. You know what I mean? Just like, tell us, say, this is the reason. This is the point. We don't have enough money, or we don't have enough suppliers, or whatever it is. If you have to call for tenders, whatever it is, because there are people who are consistently trying to get that bag, especially from the government.
But you see, here's the thing. All people care about is you delivering on your promises.
Yeah.
That's it.
At
If
the end
you're
of
not
the day.
delivering on your promises, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
You promise that hospitals will be stocked to the brim with medicine. There's nothing. So that's a failure. What's the other one? The fight against corruption. This was what he rode on in the campaigns, like, big time. And this is one of the areas where this is probably the only area for me where I'd give them a pass, because I know fighting corruption isn't a small thing. It's difficult, it's complicated, and it can take time.
Definitely.
So as long as there's the assurance that things are being done the right way, and eventually we will get convictions, because we know money has been stolen, it's been pilfered.
That's a
just
fact.
Want that money back. It doesn't have to happen even in his regime. It can happen in the next regime or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to start it from the grassroots, do the right thing, and it should be carried on. As long as there's the political will to fight corruption, you can get a lot done. I mean, remember in the Mwanawasa regime, a lot of people, like even sitting ministers, were prosecuted, were followed up, you investigated.
Yeah.
Because the president who was there gave the directive to the investigative wings to, like, listen, it doesn't matter if it's my wife. If his money has been stolen, please investigate, and I will not get in your way.
Yeah.
And so this president has put up that talk. He just has to follow it through. Like, we don't want to hear of, you're the one who's pointing people in certain directions, even though it's looked like that in certain moments. I remember when he was at a press conference and he talked about, there's this case where someone did this, and then the next thing, the ACC goes back on a deal that they made. So it's like, how independent are you? Like, when you make a deal, is it in the best interest of the government or the people? Like, what are you doing here? So they have a new guy there, Musa Mwenye. He's the new board chairperson. They're doing a whole cleanup.
Yeah.
There's been talks of some ACC officers are corrupt. They're trying to clean things up, and they follow those things through, we could have a good fight against corruption. It doesn't have to be now.
Yeah.
You know?
And listen, and that's, for me, like, that's the thing, right? Because we have these institutions that are supposed to be the ones to fight corruption. Right? And ACC, DEC should be so powerful that they're not afraid to go after a sitting minister. Yeah. If there's some bullshit, then there's some BS. You know what I mean? We can smell it, and if they smell it, because they're the big dogs, you know, they smell everything, and they're like, it's like, all right, cool. And it's like, well, no, we're coming after you. And then the president or anybody else shouldn't do anything about it. You know what I mean? It couldn't be like, it's like, oh, no. It's like, listen, go rest. You know what I mean? If someone has to sit in for you, someone will sit in for you after. If you are cleared, then it's all good. You can come back, take your job back. Yeah. You know, because that's the way it should be. You know, these institutions, when you hand over cases to the courts, and you know, like, these are things that to a certain extent were unheard of. This is like, you hear about a high court judge being followed and being, and I'm like, oh, when is the last time? Yeah, just like, when is the last time you heard of things like this, like a high court judge, you know, actually being followed up by the ACC for corruption and all of these different things? And you know, like, for me, who, you know, like, my dad has been in court since 1994. They've had another case as a group of, you know, probably around 150 people with Standard Chartered, and it's almost like the case was won, but where's the money? Oh no, we're doing this, adjourn, and it's like, just keep on adjourning for 5 years. That's crazy. The judge who was there actually was moved, so now there's a new one, and then you have to start the whole process all over again. And I'm like, bruh, you don't want to assume, but like, you start thinking, it's like, somebody is probably getting paid off.
You know what I mean? That,
you can assume that, because that's all it has to take sometimes. It's just time. You know, oh, so and so stole money. 5 years later, they're still not prosecuted. It's adjournment. Right. And I'm like, by the time you even get the case done, you're like, we really don't care about this. Wait, who was that? He stole money when? How much was it? Yeah. You know, so like, there's also that side of things of the courts just being efficient and being quick and being swift and being thorough. Right. Like, that's the other side. You know, you don't want to, like kind of like what the president was saying. It's like, you don't want to go the route of, you know, just lock these niggas up. After 6 months, let us know if you want to talk. You know, other people have done that.
That would be illegal.
That would be illegal. But like, yo, it's just like, Poker Government is like, yo, you niggas, all right. Lock him up. 6 months. Let us know if you want to have a conversation in 6 months. Right. You know, tell us where some assets are. And then, you know, we can have a conversation. You don't want to go that route, because then that starts giving absolute power to a person. For sure. Yeah.
And you know, these I always say this, ACC, DC, all these you know, law enforcement agencies and stuff, these 3-letter institutions, they need to be feared.
Yo, 100%.
You know, it's just like when, you know, like in the States, when, you know, the FBI came in and they picked you up. Yeah. And they have you in for racketeering, like what's happening with Young Thug and Gunna and all those guys. You know, like they have evidence. Yeah. And it's up to you. Do you want to go to trial, or are you just going to agree like these are the issues, and maybe you get a lesser sentence?
I'm a Tekashi 6ix9ine out of this situation.
Exactly. It's like when they come for you. Yeah. It's like, oh, there's no chance. There might be a slight chance you might get a better, easy sentence, but they've got you. They've been watching you since 2013. They saw the hit you put out on some guy. They've seen you hire a car to go and murder somebody, all that stuff. Like, they've been looking at all this stuff. They've been looking at your social media. They're listening to your music, all that stuff.
It's crazy.
We got you.
Yeah.
Let's go to trial. You're denying these charges? Cool, let's go to trial. Try and prove all of this stuff wrong.
It's basically irrefutable evidence.
Right. But
Because
here it's like, when they arrest you, it's like, all right, you even have politicians laughing. He's like, oh, whatever. Like, what, you think this is the end of me? Like, remember when they went for Bowman and people were like, oh yeah, this is amazing. Oh, they've arrested him, whatever. People making memes out of it. What's going on now? Like, he hasn't been convicted.
Yeah.
You know, there's a back and forth. Some of the cases are still in court.
Still in court.
But it's like, you know, you have people like Shimba Kamwidi who's like, this is nothing. You know, they were being summoned. It's okay. This is a political witch hunt, whatever. Obviously, they will politicize the whole thing. But you don't see any sense of, man, this is rough. But we should be able to get, the ACC and all these guys should get to a point where, that's why the president was like, investigate these cases thoroughly before you go after these people. Yeah. Because you arrest them to start asking them about some property. Oh, tell us about this property. No, like, it should be, we know you wired this money to this guy and it was hiding in this other person's name. This is the paper trail. We've got you. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's the thing, because, and obviously there's a lot more that happens, I'm sure, you know, in the background when it comes to investigations and all of those different things. But it's kind of like the same thing that I think the president mentioned it. He was talking about, I think it was Bowman. And it's like, listen, just a couple of years ago, you couldn't even afford a plane ticket. But like now you're talking about, it's like you have a property worth something million US. I mean, if you're investigating, all you have to find out is like, how did you do that? How did you do that? Right? Listen, if you are social media influencer or someone who can detail your rise from 5 years ago to where you are now, you should be able to do it. You know what I mean? People do that all the time. I invested here, I invested in stocks and bonds and all of these different things. And then after a period of time, like this, you can easily explain if it's legit money.
Right.
It's explainable. But if it's not, and then all of a sudden you went from ashy to classy, we have to look at it sideways and be like, how are you able to afford to part away with 2-point-something million dollars?
Get out of your ashy stage.
Exactly.
But you see, if it's so plain and if it's in plain sight, this guy couldn't afford an air ticket, but now he's got a mansion. How are you not able to go after this guy and pick all this information up?
You know, and you know what I think? Let me just, theorize it a little bit. Because the previous government, I think, was so, it's like, even if you're seeing it from the outside, right? As ACC, you're seeing it from the outside, but there is no political will to go after corrupt individuals. So it's like, what's going to let you even have the thought of, let's investigate Bowman, when you know you might get a call from the president? It's just like, wait, what are you doing? Who did you send where? You sent officers, why? You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's like Bowman and the president are like this. So where are you even going to start from? Like gathering the evidence and all of these different things. Maybe it might be a hush-hush situation where it's like, okay, let's investigate slowly. Panon. But again, you might have even just someone who works in ACC, but is like, the president, Mr. President, so-and-so is being investigated. By who? And then the next day is, has you resigning or whatever it is, you being fired. You know what I mean? Like, maybe the political will was not there, and then now that you've been told, it's like, okay, listen, go, do your work. That's when you start trying to gather evidence after the fact, where people have an opportunity to be like, okay, listen, you keep this property in your name, keep that property in your name. Right. You can stash money. Because you're starting basically from one. You don't know. what deal Bowman Lusambo got for him to be able to afford the lifestyle that he has.
But like you said, there should be a paper trail of everything.
Yeah.
And maybe the issue is just the ACC and all these investigative wings are just, and it goes down to the relationships. You know, if you're close to the big guy, you can ask him for a favor to get the dogs to sniff elsewhere. So just how independent is the ACC? You know, when the board chairperson and all these guys are appointed by the president.
Exactly.
So if the president who appoints these people isn't really looking at that, and that's the political will that we're talking about, then that fight suffers. And there's already talks of, you know, DEC, the ACC, they don't have enough manpower to actually get these investigations done. Like, are you going to fund these agencies adequately? Not only that, are you not going to be in the way? If one of your ministers is accused, are you going to, like you said, either fire or suspend until investigations are done? Like, what approach are you going to take? Because we already saw what ECL did. If someone is accused of corruption, you just let them be. All right. I mean, some people got fired, but the standard operating procedure should be sit on the sidelines. You know, your privileges are taken away until it's proven that you didn't do what they're saying you did. It's like what happened in Malawi. The vice president was accused of some stuff. And they put him to the side. It's like, hey,
and that's the way it should be.
Your powers are not effective from now onwards until it's proven that these issues are not true.
Because ECL was on record. It's just like, listen, he threatened to fire ministers who are being corrupt.
Yeah, he issued a lot of threats.
Yeah, just like, well, I'm going to fire them. And I'm like, if you know and you have that information, why are you telling them to stop?
Right.
Just fire them.
Right.
That's what Mwanawasa used to do. So-and-so, rest, press conference. Every time there was a press conference, people were on the edge of their seats because they didn't know whether they're keeping their jobs or not.
Yep.
Rest. Never smoke. You talked out of how dare you hold a press conference when I'm not around?
Right.
Immediately I leave the country, you're holding a press conference.
Right.
And then you're saying you see nothing wrong with that? Rest.
Or have some tea at home.
Yeah,
okay.
go have your tea. You know what I mean? Pray for some niggas. Let them reconcile.
Yeah. So I guess with the corruption fight here, like, you know, you can give them a pass for a bit, you know, because it's a complicated thing. But, you know, obviously people will want to see results.
Exactly.
Because there was a loud drum that was being beaten for a long time about, there's grand corruption going on. And the more that these guys get arrested and just let loose, the more it looks like, these guys may not have been as corrupt as you said they were. That's the perception that's going to come up, because they're not going to keep quiet when the sniffing stops. They'll be like, look, we're being prosecuted. Persecuted, rather.
Persecuted.
We're being followed up for things that we didn't do. We're innocent. These guys it's a witch hunt. There's nothing here. And slowly that perception will start to change. It's like, actually, maybe there was really nothing going on here. But the eye test, you can see there was rubbish going on.
Yeah.
All you have to do is look at the FIC report. They talk about how these unusual sums of money in cash that was moving around, because you know how it is when it's election year. There's a lot of cash transactions, and because of that, there's a lot of corruption that goes on, and our economy. This was even cited in that report. It's like our economy is cash based, so that's why there's a lot of corruption that goes on. You know, so there's so many recommendations that they can make and whatever, but it's that political will that we're talking about. Like, how strong is it? How strong is that political will to look at that FIC report and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. There's talks of lawyers and law firms being involved in serious corruption, moving crazy amounts of money. So all that information is there. Like, so what are we doing about it? You know? Like even with the people that put the FIC report together, there was like what 2,577 cases, but they didn't have enough manpower, and because of COVID, they couldn't make all the movements that they could. So there's only like 44 cases that they looked into closely. But even then, like, it's crazy amounts of money that we're talking about here. It's like billions of kwachas, you know, and something has to be done about it. We just can't read the report and move on, or even just like the Auditor General's report. That's another one, you know. It's like every year, there's these issues. Like, well, what are you gonna do about it? Something has to be done. We can't just read these reports and just
oh my gosh,
gloss over it.
So much money that is not accounted for. All right, moving on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let's wait for the next one.
Let's wait for the next one. Let's see if we can beat this record, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
It's crazy, you know, but the fight against corruption obviously is a complicated one, but I think the key here is to make sure that the agencies, the ACC, DEC are given enough leeway. You know what I mean? The head of ACC or DEC should not be worried. It's like, oh, if I investigate the president, they're going to fire me. You know what I mean? That should be the last thing on his mind. It's like, if I investigate someone on his team, he's going to fire me. That should be the last thing.
Right.
Last thing. Yeah, he's the one who appointed, but like, he shouldn't fire me, you know, because
that's,
you know, like, you hear those things. It's like even in the UK and whatever, because corruption is there. Even in the UK, it's there.
Right.
People are like, it's like, listen, wait a minute, Boris Johnson, why you get paid this much, right? And this is not too long ago, but like, how has your flat? His flat was renovated for a certain amount of money. It's like he's not able to pay this. He was like, no, well-wishers are the ones who paid for this. And I was just like, no, listen, if you have well-wishers that are doing you favors, then that puts you in debt with them. So then if a policy has to be made or something has to be passed that basically benefits them, right?
Right.
You're going to be obliged to do it.
Right.
So why are they doing you favors? And it's not right, and it doesn't look right.
Exactly.
You know,
because you're
simple stuff like
office.
that. But think about it. This is the prime minister. He's basically the president.
Yeah.
And he's being questioned like that. And that's where we need to get. Like, these institutions should be like, yo, bruh, no, you can't, off of your salary, you can't afford that car.
Zambian president is too powerful, man. Unfortunately. That's the unfortunate thing.
And you know, like, to a certain extent,
he's like a god.
Yeah, to a certain extent, and especially for our country, I think it's better to have rich people as like someone like an HH. You know what I mean? Someone who already had the money. He already had the money, like more money than the president would have. Right? It's better off because then you don't get there and then you're wowed by money.
Right.
It doesn't confuse you because you've been having it.
Money's never enough, man. That's the unfortunate thing. Money's never enough. So you have a point with that.
Money is never enough, but like, listen, money is never enough, but like, you can be content. Like, contentment is an actual thing. I don't know if that's an actual word, but like, yeah.
Contentment.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's a real word.
I don't know if that's a real word, but you get it. All right. Like, you can be comfortable in the place that you are.
Right.
You can be comfortable. You can be comfortable in Kabata, and you
I think
pay.
If you're corrupt, you're just corrupt, man.
Yeah.
I don't think it's about the amount of money that you
If
I get your point.
Yeah. Right. That's exactly my point. Like, people who have seen millions and millions and millions, right? You won't get excited when you see 100,000. Listen, I would get excited if I saw 100,000 kwacha in cash. Right. You know what I mean? But like, for somebody else,
but if you touch 100,000 all the time and somebody showed you 5 million, how are you gonna react?
I mean, that's
a different level.
That's a different level,
right?
Obviously,
so you can do bigger things.
You can do bigger things,
and so that's why I'm saying money is never enough. If you see tens of millions. If somebody showed you 1 billion, you're gonna go crazy.
Yeah, but like,
there's two sides of the coin with that argument. So I'm saying it's like, if you're corrupt, you're just
corrupt.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. So whether you're very rich or you're from a middle income situation, if you're corrupt, you're just going.
Yeah. I mean, it's about being content, right?
Right. So there's a few other areas. I know free education is something that you're very happy about. I think a lot of people could be happy.
We talked about that, and let's just also mention that we recorded a whole fucking podcast.
We did. That was the one, right?
Yes, we talked about free education. We broke it down. We had a very dope.
That's the one we lost.
A very dope back and forth. And then we lost it right at the end.
Was it power that went? It was
power went.
Oh my god.
Power went. Like it was
like a 3-hour episode, man.
3-hour episode, and it was one of the best we've recorded in a while. Because we had quote unquote a crowd, like the boys were in the building, so
it was fun.
They were chiming in here and there. So it was mad fun. You know what I mean? But
I think when the power went, we sat down for like 5 minutes and didn't speak to each other.
So even the guys were at the studio like later on when I told them, it's like, so Fanatic, you never got to. It's like, no. So Chinks, big shout out Chinks, the producer, he was telling me this is like you know how bad it is for me. Like anytime I'm working on something, I always press Control S every 3-5 minutes. Control S, Control S, Control S. He was even saying it's like, it's so bad that even when I'm watching a movie and I'm about to go take a leak, I want to save it. And I'm like, oh wait, it's a movie. And I'm like, so it's like, always save your stuff. Crazy. Always save your stuff. And I'm like, yeah, bro, I think we'll do that next time, bro.
They need to get like a UPS or something.
Yeah.
So
I said
power
that
goes out, you'd still maybe have 30 minutes of backup power. So you can save everything.
Just save everything and then just,
Yeah. But yeah, I think just the gist of that discussion on free education for you, it was, hey, we got the ball rolling and it's fine. For me, it was the quality of that education where there's an infiltration of, I think I've used that word a lot today, where there's a lot of pupils that have come out and they want to learn. That's a good thing. There's that will, that zeal to learn. But when a teacher went from dealing with 40 kids and now it's dealing with 150 kids, and not only in a day but different sets of 150 kids, that can be a mental strain on the teacher. So the quality of education will not be to the highest level. If there's a desk that's meant for 2 people, there's 5 people there, that's going to be very uncomfortable. There's so many factors to look out for. I mean, there's just no way that a teacher will have a one-on-one relationship with 150 kids.
No, that's true.
What time do you have to mark those books? I remember in high school, the pupils, which was us, we'd help the teachers mark the books, and there were like maybe 40 kids in the class, and already that was a lot of work. So now you're dealing with 150, 120 kids, man.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a good thing, but there's still some negatives here and there.
Yeah, I mean,
depends on how you want to look at it. But like, for me,
the negatives.
That's my perspective.
Yeah, it's like my perspective was get the ball rolling, get started, hire more teachers. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Which they're struggling with right now.
Doctors are still
teachers
protesting.
And doctors. It's rough.
Still protesting, and all of that. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when you even just think about it, it's like that's such a waste, isn't it? When you think about it, so it's like imagine going to study for over 7 years and then having to pick it to get a job.
Tell me about it, man. And the thing
to
with
get
our
a
system,
job,
you can't work anywhere unless you go through the government first.
You just to get a job.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
you have to protest to get one.
Yeah.
This is where we're at, and so that's another
meaning.
It's another failure for this regime. You have to call it for what it is. It's a failure because it's like, we're going to hire these many people, made so much noise about it, and here we are. The reason why they can't hire these people, allegedly, it's just no money. It's just no money. What are you going to pay them? They can hire them today, but there's no money to pay them.
Yeah.
There's actually people who've been in the system but haven't been added to the payroll. We've been hearing these stories. So there's already a backlog. So adding more people will be a huge strain
and
on the COFAs.
Listen, for me, I think obviously the no money thing is an issue. But like also if we know for a fact that there are thousands of ghost workers.
There's that as well, yeah.
There's that, you know what I mean? Yeah, that needs to be cleaned up. And if you can clean that up properly and efficiently, you can get a lot more people hired.
And speaking of that, in the same breath, there was that scandal that came out where certain, I think, teachers were getting money that they were not even supposed to get.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, you work in Osaka and you're getting rural hardship allowance and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why is this being given to you?
Yeah.
And when they added up the money, it was millions of kwacha that now has to be paid back.
Like, and even just on that particular front, just making sure everything is digitalized, man. Like that's the real thing. That's just like, I'll tell you this. I think, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I think I have on the podcast about my wife applying into government. And and her getting a salary, and then she was like, no, I'm not taking up the job because certain things happened, right? But the salary still came. Yeah. And then she wrote another letter, and then I think she wrote about 3 letters.
Yo, your wife's better than me. I'd have taken that. I'd have enjoyed that money for her.
She wrote about 3 letters to be on some, I'm not taking up the job, but like, guess what? On a certain time, her bank account, ting ting, every single month.
Wow.
So she literally had to go to the bank and just close their account.
Wow. So that money could be diverted to another account.
To another account.
The person who was closing the account.
Person who was closing the account was like, wait a minute, you want to close this account, man?
There's money coming in, you don't want this money?
Cool. All right, cool. Yeah, it's just diverted to, because it's like they do that a lot, especially here in Zambia. Like, I think I even remember there's a like my aunt was once approached by someone because her account was dormant for a very long time. And then she noticed, like, one time there was like 3,000 or 4,000 that popped up, and then she went and withdrew it, and then someone approached her after that or called her and had a conversation with her, and I'm like, no, we want to be using your account.
Right.
So it's basically the dormant accounts or whatever it is, the bank employees use them to put money in there, and it's not the type of money that will attract attention. It's small amounts. You know what I mean? But if you are putting in 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 into maybe 50 accounts, 50 dormant accounts, it's not really a red flag. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, when you think about the amount of money that's being withdrawn, deposited and withdrawn, it's a lot of money.
Right.
But yeah,
the system is broken. So
it's very broken.
A lot of sweeping has to be done.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, look, people know that the system is broken, but the fact that people don't want to fix it should tell you that there's someone benefiting from all of this, from the system being broken. People can talk about, we need to change this, we need to change that, but nothing happens. That's because
someone is benefiting.
Yeah, someone is taking money out of somebody's pocket if you're going to fix some of these cracks that are there in the system.
That's very true.
So for this regime, this first year for me, maybe freedom of speech, you could say, has been. Now people can talk. That's one area you could say. Yeah,
people can talk. Anybody can talk.
They've upheld that, so
even Bowman Lusambo is talking.
Yeah, people can freely do things. I think that's a win. That's the one win you can give. You can give the new Dawn administration. Because
it's almost like it's funny that it's like, you're able to do something that you are not allowing other people to do.
Enjoying your freedoms.
Yeah.
That you know what I mean?
Like, you had people who basically, like, when HH was traveling in certain parts of the Copper Belt and he was chased out of radio stations.
Oh yeah.
It's just like you have to think about that, and I'm like, yeah,
stuff. That was crazy.
That was crazy, you know. And now he's the president, you know. But like now you can go to whatever radio station and talk as much smack as you want to talk.
Yeah.
So kudos to you. Good for you. Good for you.
But for me, it's beyond the new dawn. I think this is just supposed to be a normal thing.
No, facts, 100%. You know what I
mean? It shouldn't be, the president is letting people just...
No.
It's like it's enshrined in the Constitution. Yeah. So people should be allowed to say whatever they want to say. And certain laws that are archaic, like the insulting the president law, which can be misused, can be used to oppress people, because the Constitution doesn't... the law doesn't tell you what an insult is. So anyone can just say, oh, you've used this idiom, you're insulting the president, we'll lock you up. So you can take it and twist it in any way that you want it. It's malleable like that.
That's the law.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, so some of these stupid laws need to be done away with.
No, that's true.
And speaking of that, remember there's that video that went viral of some kids, you know, saying all sorts of bad things about the president, and then follow up to that was military personnel torturing them,
getting their asses kicked.
Oh yeah, they got their asses whooped. But you see, for me that was strange. It's like, why is the military getting involved in something that the police can handle? It's like, is insulting the president a threat to national security? Because the defense forces are meant to protect us from external threats
and internal threats. But like, it's just like, you know, and we can obviously have that conversation on a, you know, the sensible level and what should be done, you know, what the norm is supposed to be. But like, we know those niggas. Those niggas, to a large extent, don't carry themselves like they're normal citizens. Like they feel like, and this is just not even regime stuff here. This is just them, the military. When it comes to the military, they don't treat themselves as just normal average citizens. They're like, we are this, and because you can't, well, not you can't, you can, but like the theory is you can't really take me anywhere. Where are you going to take me? You're going to take me, a soldier, you're going to take me to a police station to do what? You know what I mean? Like, I'm above those niggas. I'm part of a totally different system. I'm, you know, like, the rules don't apply here. That's how they carry themselves. That's how they move.
Which is unfortunate.
But that's how they move, and that has just been. You're better. Yes. You are better off if you're dealing. If you've been slapped around by a military person, pray you know a military person. You know what I mean? Who's high in command? It's like, this and this happened. I was doing this. Okay, who did that to you? So. Because it's almost like that's the only thing that they respect. That's the only hierarchy they respect. Is
if you follow the system and
go to the police. Really? What a police officer is going to do? Get up in uniform from Kambwata police station to go to Arakat to go and do what?
Well, there are procedures you can follow.
What power do you have here?
But nothing will probably happen.
Nothing will happen.
Even with police officers, that's why they feel they can do whatever they want to do. You can complain, nothing will really happen. They will protect themselves
100%.
from looking bad.
Yeah.
You know. So it was quite sad. And when that topic came about on radio, there was a lot of people who were angry, obviously supporters of the president. And so they were okay with those people being tortured by those military personnel.
Which is unfortunate.
It's sad, you know.
I mean, that's silly.
How you will let your political affiliation cloud your judgment. It's like, oh yeah, you insulted my president, so you should get your ass whooped. Like, forget about the law. You know, like, forget the law says these guys can't exert excessive force on civilians. You know, that even goes to police officers themselves. That whole slapping thing, we joke about it, but they're not allowed to do that.
They're not allowed to do that, yeah.
You know, they're supposed to conduct themselves in a professional manner and treat you as a suspect and not
innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly. So it's like, what, the military personnel and now the judge and the jury, you're guilty, so we'll treat you like a criminal. It's like, no, you have to go through the court process. You know, take us through all the stages, and then after
that's not even your jurisdiction, bro.
Right, it's not even your jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And even after it's proven that you're a criminal, that criminal still has rights.
Yeah. There's a number of rights followed. Some rights are taken away, but some rights are taken away. Yeah.
But generally, you're still recognized as a human being.
You're 100%.
You're not a freak.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, and like, for me, that's the thing. If a wrong is a wrong, it's wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whether you're UPND, PF, I don't know, Rainbow, whatever it is, if it's wrong, it's wrong. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. And people shouldn't be. And that's where we lose it sometimes, right? We start treating the person like they can do no wrong. Right. And I'm like, yeah, they can. We know this, right? The one thing that we should protect is not the person or the individual who's heading government. It's the institutions, you know? And that's why you were talking about the FBI, because the FBI is an institution by itself, you know? Whether the president doesn't like who's heading the FBI or not, guess what? They're still going to get funding. You know what I mean? He's still getting his salary. You want to fire him, you have to take a certain process, right? That probably might be the Senate or whatever it is, you know. There's a process, because you can't just wake up and it's like, I don't like you, nigga, out. It's like, nah, I'm staying here.
That would be a good reform for who heads the ACC.
Exactly.
So we could have the parliament choose who is going to sit
vet
there.
them based off things that they've done, decisions that they've made in the past, question their character, what they have, the properties they have. You know, if there was a suspicion of corruption somewhere, bring it up, even if it was 20 years ago.
Right.
You know
like,
what I mean?
The guy the person that was running the ACC during Mwanawasa's time, like if we had if that person has a great success rate, if your conviction rate is 70%, and that's the mark you have to hit for you to keep your job, the man, like, let that man keep his job. He should probably still be working now.
No, facts.
You know what I mean?
Facts,
like,
100%.
Still getting work done.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this guy has been heading this institution for this long and probably the most feared person in the land because this guy,
his record is this.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
You know,
his
it's
record
like,
is
Fanatic is the president now, and he's hired Chromes as the head of the ACC. You know.
Yeah. That's what it is.
And then when you leave, I'm gone.
Somebody else will bring their boy.
So it's like, now it's like, oh, you start, you stop. It's like, there's a new guy, he's got his own way, his own approach of how things are done and whatever. And that's just, again, it keeps on taking us back 5 years every time.
It dilutes the whole fight against corruption.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It does. Because if you feel like you owe me, you know, I will have the tendency, or if I feel like I owe someone, I will have the tendency sometimes to look the other way.
Of course.
You know what I mean? It's just like,
we know how humans.
Yeah, we know. It's a loyalty thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why political parties should tell us who's funding them. I don't know why that law. I think it's one of the clauses that was going to be in Bill 10, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, Bill 10 was shot down. We need that legislation.
Yeah.
Where political parties tell us who's funding them. Where are you getting your money from? We don't want. During elections, it's like, oh, these guys are being funded by these guys, and if they win, this is what's going to happen. It's like, no, we'll check for ourselves. Right? They'll pull up their records. Oh, they got 10 million kwacha from these guys. Whatever. Okay, President, your tax returns. Show us your how much money do you have? all that's like, and this information should be made public. We should all see it. Like, it should be there in black and white.
Why is the Communist Party in China sending you money?
Exactly. Why is the Rainbow Party sending you money? What promises have you?
Yeah, exactly. So
because now what we're seeing is like some of the companies. I remember like the PF during campaigns would say, "Oh, the UPND, these are the people that are funding them, and if they win, these guys will come back.
Yeah,
this company, these individuals." And then after they win, you start seeing these companies, some of them that were mentioned, sprout.
Yeah.
So what happens? Do we put 2 and 2 together, or is it just a mere coincidence? Who knows?
Who knows?
All we can do is speculate.
I mean, that's what it is.
So anyway.